The LinkedIn Podcast Network is sponsored by TIAA. TIAA makes you a retirement promise, a promise of a guaranteed retirement paycheck for life. Learn more at TIAA.org/promises pay off.
LinkedIn presents.
We don't each need to feel the weight of single-handedly solving the climate change crisis, but we all must play our small role in making life a little bit better. One vote, 1 hour volunteering, one conversation, it might seem really insignificant, but it contributes to a collective voice that shapes policies and elects leaders who represent the community's values and needs.
What's up, everyone? Today is Thursday. My name is Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily. Today, let's keep our focus on this beautiful mess we call a democracy. Almost 250 years into our political experiment, it's starting to show its age. What started with a simple declaration of principles at the founding is now a complex collection of political parties, judicial codes, corporate interests, media, and social media entities. And as things have gotten ugly and even occasionally violent, it's tempting to want to tune out politics altogether. But don't do it. That's the message of the hopeful new book, Democracy in Retrograde, How to Make Changes Big and Small in Our Country and in Our Lives, by Sami Sage and Emily Amick. Sami is the co-founder and chief brand officer of Betches Media, and Emily is a lawyer and journalist who served as counsel to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Here they are to share 5 of their big ideas.
Hi, I'm Emily Amick, and I'm one of the co-authors of Democracy in Retrograde, How to Make Changes Big and Small in Our Country and Our Lives.
And I'm Sami Sage, Emily's co-author. Another presidential election year is upon us, and we find ourselves facing yet another most important election of our lifetimes. In today's climate, it's harder than ever not to feel entirely discouraged and overwhelmed by the dire state of our democracy and political system.
What if finding a path to more civic engagement rather than withdrawing from the system could be the answer?
It is our pleasure to share with you 5 key insights from Democracy in Retrograde.
There are many factors to blame for the degradation of democracy happening in America right now. For example, a toxic morass of moneyed authoritarians coupled with capable extremists. But one thing that's often left out of the conversation is the role that the apathetic, exhausted majority plays in the process. The highest voter turnout ever was 66% in 2020. Where is that missing third of the electorate? When fewer people speak up and get involved, especially locally, we are creating a vacuum where book banners can take seats on the library boards and a vocal minority of hyper-partisan extremists monopolize the airways. An organization called More in Common found that 67% of Americans are part of the exhausted majority, people who are frustrated by the political polarization and are looking for pragmatic solutions rather than ideological purity. This group feels totally overwhelmed and disillusioned, and it's leading to their disengagement and silence. However, their silence unintentionally abets those with extreme views and allows loud voices to dominate and take control of the public square. If you're one of the exhausted majority who disengages because you believe, quote, politics is corrupt and the discourse is toxic, you have the power to change the discourse by simply being vocally rational in public.
Technology is a double-edged sword for democracy. Speaking of being vocal in public, social media is the modern public square and possibly the most powerful tool for civic engagement ever. It connects us, spreads information, and mobilizes action. But the same platforms that bring us together can also spread misinformation and disinformation like wildfire because they're algorithmically curated to stoke division and easily manipulated by malign forces of all ilks. Still, we can use digital tools to strengthen our democracy by organizing voter registration drives, connecting constituents directly to their government representatives, and building collective power to change the system. But social media can't replace the trust and connection that's built in third places through face-to-face interactions, town hall meetings, and the proverbial bowling leagues where neighbors come together to discuss issues that matter to them and foster real relationships and resilient communities. These in-person bonds are the bedrock of a functioning democracy. While social media can scratch the itch of social connection in our brains, it doesn't replace the benefits of genuine in-person friends and connections. Authentic connections keep us grounded in terms of how we perceive our own lives, the innate value of all human beings, and the facts about the world we live in.
action is the antidote to despair. Many of us are overwhelmed by feelings of political despair. This is something we call the hopelessness spiral, a downward cycle where feelings of powerlessness and disconnection from the political process feed into each other, making it increasingly difficult to take any action. A hopelessness spiral starts with a sense of frustration and disappointment in political outcomes. As this frustration grows, individuals begin to feel that their efforts are futile, leading to withdrawal from civic activities. This disengagement only amplifies feelings of isolation and helplessness, creating a self-perpetuating loop of inaction and despair. The way out of the spiral? It's taking action. No matter how small, every action restores a sense of control and optimism. Engaging in civic activities channels your frustrations into constructive efforts, leading to a tangible impact of your contributions and fostering a sense of accomplishment and hope. Activist and educator Mariam Kaba, whose work focuses on, among other things, violence in the prison-industrial complex, has popularized her teaching that hope is a discipline. It's not a fuzzy feeling that a happy ending is inevitably on its way. Neither is it an emotion or a sense of optimism. It's a discipline.
Civic engagement is the answer to the loneliness epidemic while also saving our democracy. We have a loneliness epidemic in this country, which, according to the Surgeon General, affects about half of U.S. adults. There are tangible personal consequences of this, including a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, and a 50% increased risk of developing dementia for older adults. We argue that civic engagement might just be the cure. Getting involved in your community can boost your mental health by giving you a sense of purpose and connection. Studies show that people who participate in community activities report higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress. When you participate in political action rooted in your values, you connect with people on an even higher level than shared activities or interests, though those are great too. Joining community groups or volunteering fosters a sense of belonging that's crucial for emotional and mental health. Our book includes a story from a woman who we interviewed named Jessica, who found new joy and companionship by volunteering. Even though she had initially joined to give back to her community, she ended up finding lifelong friends among her fellow volunteers. By connecting with friends and peers regularly, you enrich your own life and help create a stronger, more supportive community.
Small but consistent actions by all of us add up to meaningful change. In a world where grand protestations and sweeping reforms often dominate the headlines, it's easy to overlook the power of small everyday actions. But democracy is very much a rising tide lifts all boats situation. We don't each need to feel the weight of single-handedly solving the climate change crisis, but we all must play our small role in making life a little bit better. One vote, 1 hour volunteering, one conversation, it might seem really insignificant, but it contributes to a collective voice that shapes policies and elects leaders who represent the community's values and needs. Take the classic example of a community cleanup initiative. A single person picking up litter is not going to transform a neighborhood overnight, but when a bunch of neighbors join in together, the collective effort leads to a cleaner, safer, and more welcoming environment for everybody. Moreover, these small actions, they're accessible, they're manageable, they make it easier for people to get involved. So many of us are totally overspent, taking care of children, getting food on the table, working 1, 2, or 3 jobs. The goal is to find civic actions that fit within your lifestyle and are sustainable. Because civic engagement should be a daily habit, not a yearly or every 4-year freak out.
All right, thanks for listening. Come on back tomorrow. I'll be joined by Yale University's Richard Deming, who's going to share some big ideas from his book, This Exquisite Loneliness, What Loners, Outcasts, and the Misunderstood Can Teach Us About Creativity. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.